My name is David Crow, and I'm one of the pastors here at Grace Bible Church in Fairburn, and also on the web at gracebible.faith. That is gracebible.faith. And here at Grace Bible Church, we're working our way through the book of James. And Sunday, a week ago, we finished our rather extended work in chapter 4, verses 1 through 10. And this last Sunday, we worked through the next major portion of the letter, verses 11 and 12, which reads as follows. Do not slander one another, brothers. He who slanders a brother or judges his brother slanders the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge of it. There is only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you who judge your neighbor? Verses 11 and 12. Obviously, this is a much shorter section, but one that has a clear weightiness to its subject matter and speaks to the prohibition of abusing one another with our words, a direct violation of the royal law, which James spoke to in chapter 2. Now, in addition to this association with the royal law, which is to love one's neighbor as themselves, there were a number of other thematic elements that were woven into this text. We see this with James's references to speech, arguably the prominent subject matter here in this most immediate text and one of the most prominent themes in the book as a whole. He also addresses the thematic elements of judging, of law, and being a doer, which is what I would argue is what he's driving at here, to be doers. Now, mindful of these thematic developments and the clear emphasis on speech, specifically the abusive speech of slander, we broke the passage up into 5 parts, forming a small chiastic structure. And this showed that there were 2 sets of parallels and a central aim that was being used here. Now, the first set of parallels were between the opening command, do not slander one another, brothers, 4:11a, and the final question that was functionally a statement of rebuke. But who are you who judge your neighbor, 4:12b? This effectively frames the passage with a prohibition and a necessary rebuke. The second set of parallels were focused on who is in the position to judge at all, much less one's brothers and or the royal law. And so we read, he who slanders a brother or judges his brother slanders the law and judges the law, 4:11b. The conclusion clearly being, you are doing this without sufficient standing and are wrong, as God alone is the only one who is lawgiver and judge, as he goes on to state in the parallel verse. There is only one lawgiver and judge, the one who is able to save and to destroy, 4:12b. Then this brings us to the independent center of the parallels, and what I believe is James's focus here, that we must be doers of the royal law, which precludes the offense of abusing one another with our tongues, slandering and judging one another, thereby slandering and judging the royal law. So if you are doing, then you're not slandering. If you're slandering, then you're not doing. So be doing. Be doers of the word, as we saw in chapter 1, and be doers of the law, as I believe he's commanding and directing us to here. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge of it. So by contrast, if you're fulfilling the opening command of this passage, do not be slandering one another's, then you will be doing, specifically doing the royal law that we've been commanded to, rather than judging it and our brothers. Now, in the larger development of the passage, we also worked through matters of speech and judgment, and I finished with an effort to press in on the necessity of this challenging command while also striving to maintain a balance to speaking out when proper for rebuke and correction. So there's a balance with not judging, not slandering, not speaking poorly, but also to correcting and restoring and rebuking. But it's a delicate balance and one that has to be framed in humility. And finally, to summarize my conclusions and convictions, I read an extended quote from Joseph Mayer's commentary on James, and he states the following. I think it really summarizes well what we're driving at on Sunday. He states, what St. James means is that we are not to indulge in the habit of fault-finding from the mere love of it, where duty does not call us to it, for the sake of showing off our acuteness and pulling down others by way of exalting ourselves. Even where it is our duty to judge, it should be done under a sense of responsibility with the consciousness of our own liability to go wrong and a genuine desire for the improvement, not the humiliation of the person blamed. And further, our judgment should be determined by the objective standard of right, not by our private taste or likings. Otherwise, we set ourselves above the law and lawgiver. So, as I stated, it was a short but weighty passage, and I'm grateful we had the opportunity to wrestle through it. And there is a measure of wrestling through it in terms of understanding it, but most certainly in applying it, putting it to action. And I hope that it was an encouragement to you too, and to understand the fuller context and to appreciate the fuller dynamic of the relationship of this passage within the larger book. I would encourage you to listen or watch the full message, and that's available on our website at gracebible.faith. Again, that's gracebible.faith, where you can access all of our messages in the book of James, as well as other studies in both video and audio format. They're available on YouTube and Spotify. Both of those are linked on the website. And so again, we hope that our study in the book of James will be and has continued to be an encouragement to you as we all pursue James's very precise, very clear aim for the book as a whole, namely that we be made perfect, complete, and lacking in nothing as we walk in the wisdom from above. All right, grace and peace to you all.